All right, we're
All
rolling.
right.
Hey, everybody. We're back with part two of Secret Societies. Part one, we went pretty far in depth in the history of the Freemasons. Archie talked about his time in the Freemasons, kind of the hierarchy in there as far as that secret society goes. We did go over a little bit as far as like the old history of the Illuminati.
Mhm.
Um, Today, we're going to go a little bit more deeper into what the Illuminati is in kind of late or not early history, kind of in the 20th century up till today, and kind of the major players that kind of pushed the Illuminati to where it is now, like Aleister
Mhm.
Crowley, Jack Parsons, Elon Hubbard, that kind of coalition there, because it was a good coalition of people that kind of pushed that narrative. But here we go. You want to go over all
Yeah,
that,
but before
Archie?
we get started, I wanted to announce that uh, you, Brandon, have come up with a new logo that's
Oh yeah,
pretty rocking new logo that we're going to come out with. We're going to be coming out with some merch as well, so some T-shirts with the logo on it, and we'll unveil that pretty soon. So it's pretty rocking, man.
oh yeah. I'll put that on the thumbnail of this video so you can
Yeah,
kind
the
of check
new.
it out. Comment, tell us what you think about it. Um, yeah, I completely forgot about that. I got so caught up in all this
It's a
stuff
pretty
that
darn good
I forgot
logo,
about
though.
the
It's
housekeeping
awesome,
items.
Brandon.
I like
I
it.
really think it entails everything, and it's pretty cool. So I'm excited to unveil that, and you know we're going to probably our goal, and we it's a good goal to set, and we're hoping to do it, but we're hoping to have a booth at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference this coming up year. That's one of our goals to have is to set up at the conference, and so we'll be.
Yeah, that's in Townsend in May, right?
Well, the Bigfoot Conference is actually in July. That's in July.
Oh yeah, no, I was talking
The,
about the
the
one in
ones in
Townsend
Townsend is the
though.
festival. That's yes, that is in May. That's the Bigfoot Festival in Townsend. And hey, that's a good.
And I think we're doing
Yeah,
that,
we can
right?
do that one too. Yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
about it.
And I'm gonna have it try to have it done by this week, but I've been slowly going back through and editing the videos because we did get a new editing platform that can allow us to do a little bit better production, a little more entertaining show. Um, so I'm gonna try to get our YouTube channel going uh, this week and start reposting our videos on YouTube as well as Apple Podcast and X as well. Um, so I'm gonna be doing that also. But so bear with us because we're kind of self-recording, self-producing all
Yeah,
this
and
stuff, and never done this
Brandon does
before.
most
But
of the work. I got to hand it to Brandon. I have a job that is, it's a very demanding. He has a job that's very demanding, so I'm trying to learn from him, and we just haven't been able to sit down and him show me what I need to do to help out. But we're going to get all of that pretty soon, and hopefully within the next few months, be able to get on a, have better equipment to do a little bit more crisper podcast as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And again, I have a background in some in software development. That's kind of what I went to school for. But producing edited videos is it's almost compared to as like carpentry to welding. It's in the same wheelhouse, but it's
yeah,
nothing the same at
yeah.
all. Um, but but yeah, let's dive
Okay.
into the Illuminati because a lot of people know about the Illuminati. A lot of people have a lot of theories about the
Hmm.
Illuminati. Um, and the Illuminati goes pretty is a very powerful group. and it's a group. Think of it like a chain of command. So you have your CEOs and that call the shots. And we're going to go into more of this, but I'll kind of explain how the whole hierarchy of these societies go. And a lot of our information kind of pertains to the US, but this is a global
Hmm.
thing. This isn't just to one country or another country. Uh, but since we live in the US, it's a lot easier to find information and kind of connect dots in your own country. But it goes global. And so at the very top, you have your 13 uh, royal bloodlines
Hmm.
that trace back all the way back to Cain. Um, Under that, you have your committee of the 33 families. So those are the they're kind of like second cousins to the bloodline, basically. They're not pure. They're part of the bloodline, but they're not pure bloods. Um, then you have your committee of the 300. Um, some of them call it the committee of 300 bloodlines, but in all the documents that I've seen, they just call it the committee of the 300. Um, and those are your basically your upper management of the hierarchy. And you're going to find a lot of people that are in the Illuminati, in that you'll have some Rosicrucians, some Jesuits, some things from different aspects, because each one of these subgroups are in charge of a different aspect of or a different job role in the hierarchy to ultimately execute the agenda of the new world order.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Illuminati's job is basically they are involved in all major, and this is more Western society infiltrated, because the majority of the world follows the United States lead.
Hmm.
Um, and we're in it deeper than most countries are, because we're kind of the trendsetters, you could say. So a lot of this is going to be pertained to uh, Europe, um, all your NATO, all that stuff, and then the United States as well. Then you have the Rosicrucians, which they're more involved with dismantling and rebuilding of religion and faith. Um, then you have the Illuminati, and then the Freemasons are at the bottom. But they all intertwine and intersect with each other
Hmm.
also. But as far as the hierarchy goes, um, the Jesuits are they're kind of the outliers to all four of those brackets of the 300 down to the Masons. The Jesuits are a separate kind of bracket. They're more into the uh, mystic arts like alchemy,
And they're tied
and
to the
uh,
Catholic Church.
they're tied to the Catholic Church. Um, they also do have their own
Hmm.
agenda. Like they're kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the hierarchy. Like they're allowed to come to the reunions and stuff, but nobody really likes them.
And Pope Francis was a Jesuit.
Yep. And a lot of these older people are Jesuits. The Jesuits still are around, but they're not. They don't have the influence like they used to back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, but kind of the main kind of coalition that brought over the Illuminati agenda to the United States and intertwined it with the UK would be Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, who they call the father of
Hmm.
rockets, and started NASA, and Elon Hubbard, uh, the father of Scientology, which it just blows my mind that that's an actual
Yeah.
thing. Because if you read their, it's a cult. Obvious,
Yeah,
it's definitely a cult, but it's the most wild like theology
yeah,
you could ever even make up. It's almost like, hey, I think you said it earlier. Let's make up the most wild theology and see if people
yeah.
follow it.
So
And
you know,
they
you
don't.
have these three guys in Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, and L. Ron Hubbard, I should say, L. Ron Hubbard. So these
Yeah.
guys knew each other. Um, they were friends with one another, um, and Aleister Crowley was kind of like their mentor. So Aleister Crowley, we know through songs like Ozzy Osbourne, has a song "Mr. Crowley." Um, he's considered the most evil man in history. He was just not a nice guy. He was a very evil guy, and he was an occultist. Uh, he was part of the Masonic Lodge. They basically kicked him out because they said, "Man, you're too freaking weird. You're just too weird with your theologies and all this kind of stuff." And so they kind of just kicked him out of um, the uh, the Masonic Lodge. And so he went and he created the Thelema Society, and it's all based on occultic ritual practices. And he was also part of the OTO, which is the um, I've got it here on my phone. It's hard to pronounce because it's a weird name, uh, but it's very let's see, the uh, Ordo Templi Oranus. So it's the OTO, Ordo Templi Oranus is the name of the this secret society. It's similar to the Masonic Lodge, but it's different because it's all dealing with very, very deep, dark, occultic stuff. But it's basically it's it's modeled after the Masonic order. And they in their ritual rooms they have the white and black checker floors, just like the Masonic Lodge. But it deals more with the deep, dark, occultic rituals that many would say they're they do sacrifices, whether that be animals or humans. I mean, it's a very deep, dark type of secret society. But so he started Thelema, Aleister Crowley did, and then um, Jack Parsons, and I don't know much about uh, L. Ron Hubbard, but I know Jack Parsons was part of Thelema, and he was also part of OTO. And so, you know, Jack Parsons, who was he was the founder of the Jet Propulsion Laboratories and also Aerojet Engineering Corporation. So he um, is, like Brandon said, he's considered the father of modern day rocketry. But he started college at Stanford University, but did not finish. So he basically did not even have a college degree. But he said that he would go into trances and he would be talked to by an entity that would kind of give him a download on jet propulsion. And after he came out of this trance, he would write everything down and he would figure out how to build these rockets. But he was not formally trained in rocket engineering. So, he mystically, if you want to say, through what I believe is satanic sex magic, got this download from these entities that he was able to basically revolutionize modern day rockets and jet engines um, because of these supposed downloads. And which I would think that would be some type of download from a Nephilim entity that was giving him technology the advanced technology that he then engineered, and um, he created rockets. Now, him and Aleister Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard were known to have ritual ceremonies. They did a ceremony called the Whore of Babylon. So they were trying. I don't know the whole ceremony, um, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't repeat it on this podcast. But it's a very satanic ceremony called uh, the Whore of Babylon. So they're trying to bring forth the Whore of Babylon. You do it on a full moon, and it's again, this is satanic ritual sex magic. You know, it's very dark, very uh, nasty and satanic, and so these three guys were all involved with this occultic society, and
And their
and their wives,
wives.
yes, and their wives, and you could just imagine what satanic sexual sex magic is all about. It's very dark and dirty, and so you know Jack, he was born in 1914, and in 1952 he actually blew himself up. Um, so he was working on a rocket, and for whatever reason, when they did the testing, he blew himself up. So he unknowingly, perished in this explosion of this rocket. And you had L. Ron Hubbard and Aleister Crowley. Again, L. Ron was a friend, and Aleister Crowley was also a mentor of L. Ron Hubbard. And the way the story goes is um, L. Ron Hubbard and Aleister Crowley were sitting around a table, and they were shooting ideas across from one another. And Aleister Crowley basically made the boast. He said, I believe I can form a religion and get people to follow me. And L. Ron Hubbard said, well, I think I can form a religion and people follow me. And so they made a bet on who could make the biggest religion. And so that's when L. Ron Hubbard started the Church of Scientology, which is nothing but a alien death cult, is basically what it is. They believe that some type of alien being went down into a volcano, hundreds of thousands of years ago, and all these other beings followed, and now their souls are out in the universe, and you can you can through what through all this cleansing of Scientology, and this is just paraphrasing of what I can understand about Scientology and what I've heard about Scientology, that you can go on to the next level. The different levels you go into, or you as you progress in Scientology, you finally get to a level where you can leave your body and go be in a higher entity. And so they believe that L. Ron Hubbard did not die, that he decided to leave his body and go on to be a higher entity. I'm here to tell you, L. Ron Hubbard is dead. He did not go become another entity.
He didn't ascend to alien land.
Yeah. Now he may be pushing up daisies in Hades, but he didn't ascend to no higher entity. And
No, he's dropping the soap for a demon right
yeah,
now.
yeah. And when you look at the deep dark secrets of Scientology, it's very very dark. There's a lot of abuse, be it physical, emotional, and sexual abuse within Scientology. And for a long time in Hollywood, a lot of Hollywood actors were convinced to come over to Scientology and become Scientologists, and it's all based off of money. So to go to the higher levels, you've got to pay money to go to the higher levels. And then if you get to the higher, each higher level, you get more clout and all this kind of stuff. But it's all deals with um, really subjecting people and oppressing people under the name of Scientology. And if you're a Hollywood elite, you know you, you have more clout, and you're out in the public eye, and you're basically an advertisement to draw people into Scientology. Uh, the biggest one I can think of is Tom Cruise. He's way up there within Scientology, and he's an absolute nutball. Tom Cruise is an absolute nut. Um, and listen, I'm not trying to belittle these people, but the the subjection of brainwashing that goes in to becoming a member of Scientology is just unreal. Um, there's been many shows here lately um, that have dealt with Scientology and basically uncovering the deep, dark, ugly secrets of Scientology. It's just um, not a good religion. But you know, L. Ron Hubbard, um, who was in World War II, he was a captain or commander of two vessels because he was in the Navy. He was a commander of two vessels, and both vessels he was relieved of his command. For it doesn't go into much detail of why he was relieved, but he was relieved of his command, probably because he's a lunatic or was a lunatic. But that's beside the point. But so you have Aleister Crowley, who has mentored these two men. They're involved in all of this occult stuff. And, one of the biggest things that was part of the Lima uh, religion and also the OTO was a saying that was coined by, well, the society came up with it, but Aleister Crowley kind of takes credit for it. It says, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." So basically, whatever you want to do, whatever makes you feel good, whatever makes you feel good, it's not off the table. And Aleister Crowley, I'm here to tell you, was an evil, evil man. He's been mixed up with, of course, satanic sex magic. He's been mixed up with pedophilia. He's been mixed up with adrenochrome, kidnapping, um, sacrificing human beings, sacrificing children, you name it. And this nasty, ugly, evil man had his hands in it, and he was just an awful guy. He was also known for channeling a being which he called an angel, and the being was Iowas was the name of the being, and he actually drew the being that he supposedly channeled and gave him this information for this satanic sex magic, and it looked like a gray alien. Um,
Yeah, it looks just like a small
just looks like
gray.
a small gray
And
alien.
and also kind of touch on that. Aleister Crowley was he wasn't an informant, but he he was a ranking official in British
Yes,
intelligence
yes,
also. So if you kind of think about the type of people that are in these intelligent agencies, that's the type they're looking for. They don't do these what I call the psychological evaluations to get the best and brightest. They get the people who are the most
yeah.
sociopathic because that's the only people that are going to help with this agenda that they've got going.
He
Um,
also has ties to
and
Hitler
then, oh
because Hitler
yeah,
was an occultist, and
he was he was a cultist on cocaine.
absolutely 100%. Well, he Hitler, which I'm not saying that I can confirm it, but it had been rumored that Hitler did meet with Aleister Crowley. but Hitler was also a raving methamphetamine addict. He 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 was on methamphetamine. Like, that's why he never slept. That's why he basically went crazy, because if you watched him at the Olympics when it was held in Germany, he's sitting there on the video just rocking back and forth, rocking back, because he's freaking high on meth. The dude was a meth head,
Yeah.
and he was just a raging meth head. And I think that's probably why, one of the reasons why we were able to overtake the Germans, is because he, you know, people want to say that he actually led the German army, but I or the German campaigns. I think he told his generals to do certain things, but in the gist of it, I think they did what they thought was the best, because he was so methed out. You know,
Yeah, he wasn't a brilliant
no,
guy.
not by any
He was a
means.
very before he got all methed out, he was a very influential guy. He was able to. I mean, obviously, he was able to rally enough people to get them going on their
Yeah.
side, and he made it. If you ever listen to his speeches that are translated into English, like the stuff he was saying, in no way, shape, or form mirrored what he actually was
Yeah.
doing. But it'd be very enticing for people to want to have that. They would want to like there is very patriotic, is very like I'm going to do this for Germany and Germany's going to be the greatest thing ever. And so as a person, you're listening to that and you're like, oh, I can get on board with that. And then he's like, the Holocaust. And everybody's like, whoa,
Well,
nope,
and you know,
except for his
exactly.
followers.
And when you talk about his occult ties, he was looking to bring in the Aryan race. So that's why he did all the expeditions over, into, over there where the Dalai Lama's at. What's that over there? But in between India and China, they did a lot of excavations.
Like the Middle
No, it's not
East,
the Middle East. I can't even think of it.
Saudi Arabia,
No, where it's in China, and between China and the India, in that mountain region where all the monks are up there.
the Himalayas.
Himalayas. So,
Yeah.
I couldn't think of it. The Germans did a lot of excavations over there. They did a lot of excavations, they tried to in Israel and Egypt. Supposedly, they found the spear of destiny, which is the spear that pierced Jesus' side, because he thought that that would give him a certain amount of power. Whoever had that would give them power. It would give that person power. So there was also, I think, go ahead.
Well, it's the lore behind the Spear of Destiny is all the major um, empires, the leaders of the major empires in history were said to have obtained the Spear of
Mhm.
Destiny. And so Alexander the Great, um, what's the guy's, um, the Oriental guy? Um,
Oh, Mao.
man,
Oh,
no, Genghis
Genghis Khan.
Khan.
Yeah,
He's said to have it. All of, like the famous ones said to have had it, but the minute they let it go, they lose. The empire
yeah.
dies. Um, the Romans, yeah.
And there's a castle. I think it's Rumstyle Castle in Germany, that it's it was considered the castle of Satan, because so much occultic ritual, sex magic, and
Oh, I watched a documentary
yeah,
on that place. It is creepy.
sacrifices.
It's in
Yeah,
Ireland.
well, there's actually one in Ireland. There's a castle in Ireland, but this castle is actually in Germany. And
Maybe no, because yeah, the one I saw was in
yeah,
Ireland. It was a
yeah, this
Celtic.
one is actually a German castle. And Russ Disdar, who's now passed away, actually went to the castle, and he said down in the bottom of the castle there was this sunken in place. It was rounded, and what they would do is they would put the pentagram star in the center of this thing, and they would commit sacrifices and all. And he said while he was there, he said in this thing they've got cameras all the way around it, and he went to the center of that circle and started praying over this castle, just basically casting out demons, casting out. And he said immediately after he started, when he went into the center of that star and started praying in Jesus' name, but, security guards came out and told him to get out of the center of the circle. They saw him on those cameras and they knew what he was doing. They knew he was praying, and they told him to get out. So that's how evil this place still is today. And they still have seances, and I believe they still have rituals that are done in that castle. And no telling how much innocent blood has been spilled in that castle as well.
That's
And so
crazy.
all of these people are tied together under this occultic, um, or these occultic societies, or these uh, mystic religions, which all ties back to the bloodlines and the Illuminati. Um, I, I don't know, or there's really not any mention of Aleister Crowley being part of the Illuminati, but I would say that he had connections to the Illuminati.
Oh no, he definitely was. He was connected with the Illuminati for sure, um, through his time in the
Hmm.
Masonry. But but so because at that time the Illuminati wasn't so occultic, um, like it is now. Now it's the satanic. It's called. It used to be called the Order of the Illuminati. Now it's called the Satanic Order of the
Hmm.
Illuminati. Uh, and that tends to happen with all these societies. They all turn satanic for some reason. Could be a coincidence. I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, but on top
Uh,
of that, Brandon, on the flip side, and kind of the good side of this thing, um, Justin Falk came out with a documentary a few years ago called Higher Entities, and he explains all of this at a just an awesome. I mean, he goes into very great detail. Him and his brother, they interview Chad Riley, who's done a lot of research in this as well. And I encourage anybody to follow Justin Falk and his brother, and Chad Riley. I follow them on Facebook and Instagram, but these guys really go into deep detail more into Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, L. Ron Hubbard, and they really get into the deep things that we really can't get into here. But there, on the flip side, there was also a government agency called the Collins Elite, and many of these guys that were part of the Collins Elite were Christians, and they were trying to stop because they figured out what um, Jack Parsons was doing. He was doing this, satanic sex magic stuff, and so they were trying to stop what he was doing because they knew that he was trying to bring entities over, and so there was a kind of an inner battle between the Collins elite and these occultists. So there was I think, a flip side to this. Now, not all of the Collins elite were Christians, but a lot of the Collins elites were. And if you look into their documentation through the Freedom of Information Act, you can see in there, in some of their documents, what they're trying to do, that they understand what Jack Parsons and some of the other people are doing with with these rituals, that they're trying to bring forth these entities. And so, and then that goes also into Project Blue Book. So the Collins Elite and the Project Blue Book kind of intersect. And those who don't know what Project Blue Book was, that was um, a government agency that during the early, well, I guess late 40s, early 50s, went around and they started reporting on the UFO phenomenon. And so the Collins Elite kind of intersected with Project Blue Book.
Yeah. And then, so what I want to kind of go over, I had something to say about Jack Parsons too. Oh, Jack Parsons also, um, he also bought up a lot of the Appalachian Mountain area
Yes, that is
because
correct.
he believed that there was, and excavated a lot of Indian burial mounds.
Hmm.
Um, because he believed that if he did these rituals in the Indian burial mounds, which we went over in Giants, were burial mounds of Nephilim, that he could conjure back the demonic Nephilim
Yeah,
spirits. And he spent millions of dollars at that time, which would be probably billions today, buying up these what he called coal mines, but they're really excavation because he didn't produce any coal.
yeah.
He bought up coal mines, didn't produce any coal, so he could find the buried Nephilim, he
And
said.
that goes back to
And
necromancy because they believe that they can get these bones and they can draw power from these giant bones.
yeah. And so what I wanted to kind of go over was kind of the difference with the Illuminati and Freemasonry. So there was so back in the day there were very two separate societies. There was some Freemasons that were a part of the Illuminati, but they still kind of operated separately. Um, like in the 1800s and stuff like that. Today, they are very much interconnected. Now, it's a one way street, though. Not all Freemasons are a part of the Illuminati. Actually, the majority of Freemasons are not a part of the Illuminati because the majority of Freemasons are low level, low degree Freemasons, like we talked about before, just kind of wanted to chill with some guys and have bro time. Um, but all high ranking, high degree Freemasons are affiliated or hold high rankings in the Illuminati. Um, like, like for example, Walt Disney. Walt Disney is a 33rd degree Freemason, and he was very much in the Illuminati. You can go back and look at old Disney cartoons and stuff and see the all seeing eye and all the symbolism and stuff and all the weird kind of pedo stuff that was going on in those movies back in the day also. So it's kind of an example. So all in high ranking degrees in Illuminati, you cannot go above a certain degree of Freemasonry unless you are of the bloodline of one of the royal bloodlines. You don't have to be pure blood. Now, the more pure blood you are, the higher ranking you could go. It's called like a 33rd degree adept, meaning that you are a pure blood. You went through the skull and bones training, and you are a 33rd degree adept. That usually doesn't. You usually don't get that title until you're about 30 years old. Is when you can actually claim the 33rd degree adept title. Um, and their ranking system, I mean, it goes along. They kind of use Freemason ranking system in the Illuminati to kind of signal out who's higher than who, kind of thing. Because the Illuminati has its own rank and file as
And
well.
Brandon, Tony Merkel just a few episodes ago on his podcast, The Confessionals, interviewed that gentleman that was one of the elite in the elite families who was
Oh yeah,
basically an assassin. He went through the MK Ultra programming, and he was basically an assassin. And he got out. He basically detested from his family. Just removed himself from his family to get out of it. And he's been on the run. He was on the run for quite a while because of it.
Yeah, that guy is. He's got. I mean, obviously he's been through some stuff, but that's how they. He was a part of the Reynolds family,
Yes,
if I
correct. That is
remember
right.
right.
Yeah.
And I've got when we go over the 13 families and the community of 300 and the 33 bloodlines, where we'll go over all that in the Reynolds and stuff. Um, in fact, I'm just going to say it out there. If you just type in 12 bloodlines on Google, the first thing that's going to pop up is a CIA document that's 294 pages long. I'm about 150 pages into it, and it's insane. This is from the CIA.gov.
Mhm.
You can't it's not a reprint, it's not a forgery, it's from CIA.gov. You cannot have that domain name and be without it being legit.
And these families feel that they are the superior people. You know, they are superior than everyone else on the planet. They reign
Oh yeah.
supreme. That the rest of us are just peasants and slaves to them.
Yeah, that's why they don't mind telling us all this
Yeah.
stuff cuz they they in order for their like weird theology to work, as long as they tell us and we don't do anything about it, then we
You're
okay it.
correct.
And they don't receive retribution for it. But they also don't care if you know it or not. I mean, they care up to a certain level because up to a certain, I mean, they still have to maintain some sort of image of we're good and not
Hmm.
bad. But anything that you can, that I won't say prove, but when it gets too loud, they dial back and rebrand.
Yes.
And that's what I'm going to kind of go into also. So basically, a while back ago, I couldn't find an exact time period, but just kind of uh, like early 80s or late 80s, early 90s, the Illuminati, as far as the top end part of the Illuminati, rebranded into what they call globalists. Uh, and that falls under the New World Order. So the the Illuminati's job is to put every chess move into place for society to kind of easily roll into this one world government or new world order,
Yeah.
uh, and without any complete just compliance with the rest of society. Is oh yeah, is and they've done it and they've orchestrated it, and people say that like one world government, that's never going to work, kind of blah 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 blah. How would that even happen? It's not even going to happen. It's insane, which I agree, it's
Hmm.
insane. It's absolutely crazy. However, it is very much a real thing, and they have been doing it for decades and decades without anybody really realizing it. And if you don't think that's true, if you don't think that we've been programmed to be more compliant, more willing to give up our freedoms and rights and let the government and be willing to be more controlled as a population, then look at back to where oh, I lost you.
I'm back now. Can you hear me?
This happened last time.
We're talking about the weird stuff, man, and they don't like it.
I know. Well, you know what? Tough. That's what we're
Yeah.
here for, to expose evil, and that way this stuff doesn't
Yeah.
happen. Because this stuff doesn't have to happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't. The only reason it happens is because we let it happen. At the end of the day, there's way more of us than there are of
Yeah.
them. And but the what I was saying was, if you don't think that we've been programmed to be more compliant and more um, just willing to accept the crap that the people in power of us, and this is not just government, this is just everybody that has a finger in the
Hmm.
game, and basically look at us as just a resource to use, a piggy bank, resource for labor. All the we're that's what we are to them, and they feel entitled to it.
Hmm.
Also, like they no guilt. It's like we were born to serve them,
We
and that's what they
we are
truly believe.
chattel to them.
Right now, the ultimate goal is to depopulate the world down to 500 million
Hmm.
because that's the number that they feel like they could have one global government and it be very simple, and 500 million people is all they need to really keep up, because basically at that point we are just slave labor, and we have no freedoms, we have no rights, we all live in little uh,
Pods.
compartments, and yeah, pods, and just like an apartment building. Think of it that way. We're we're let out of them like you would a dog in a cage to do our work. Then we have one digital bank central currency that we're allowed to spend our money on, like little things that make our stay there a little bit easier. But up and they're going to allow us to live a certain age, and then once we're too old to be productive, then that's probably when
Euthanize
they'll
us.
have either euthanize us or just have it to where we're programmed to only live a certain age,
And
and they can do
and they
that.
want us to live in these 15-minute cities where we stay within our sector of of this 15-minute city and do the work that we're allotted, and you know do what we need to do, and or what they want us to do. A very, very grim existence.
Oh yeah, and if you don't think this is happening, look back to
Mhm.
1776. We started a war with the most powerful army at the time, the British Royal Army, from a bunch of farmers with muskets and pitchforks. We started a war with them because we were fed up about being taxed on tea.
Mhm.
Now, that's all that was going on. We were getting taxed on tea, and we were like, no way this is happening. We're going to war. Is shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And now look at us. We get taxed like it's insane. It is insane how much we get taxed. And we're okay with it. We're okay with the government. We know we have these phones. We know the government's listening. We know the government is got these massive data centers that's controlled by AI to sift through
Mhm.
information. And uh, like that's the new real estate. Who's the guy on Shark Tank? The bald guy.
Oh man, I'm not for sure.
That's his entire like um, real estate business that he's got is building data centers. He gets paid millions and millions of dollars to go around the country building these data centers, and it's a giant warehouse, like a massive. Think about a 4 football field long, full of servers
Oh,
to record
collecting data.
that save
Hmm.
everything about us. The more knowledge is power. The more you can know about somebody, the more they're easily manipulated. They're and they're easier to be controlled because what they learned a long time ago from the monarchs of Europe were the problem that they had was they kept their people in such poverty and such crappy living conditions that they ultimately decided they had nothing else to lose and then revolted. And kingdoms got overthrown left and
Hmm.
right. Now, what they learned was if they give people enough to lose, they won't revolt. So we'll allow them to make enough money to live in a nicer house or whatever. Just allow people to have enough to where they like, I don't really want to lose what I
Hmm.
got. So I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna be cool with it. I live comfortably. I live in whatever. I'm able to pay my bills. Or some people are like, I'm scraping by, kind of thing, but just enough to where they are afraid to lose what they have, and they won't revolt. You can do whatever you want. They won't because they're afraid of losing and keeping people living in fear. Um, but it's we're being programmed. I mean, and this isn't a thing that's going to happen anytime soon, but it will. That's what if things keep going the way they're going, it will
Hmm.
happen because how they program us by generation. And that's why schools have been the Rockefeller Institution went straight after schools. We have to get them while they're young and mold them to be more compliant, mold them to be uh, basically workers
Well, that's what,
because school teaches you to be an employee,
and
not
that's
an employer.
exactly what Rockefeller said. He said, "I want a country full of workers. I don't want a country full of entrepreneurs." Because if there were
Exactly.
so many entrepreneurs, then he would be in direct competition with them, and he knew that.
Exactly. And they don't want competition. They just want obedient,
Yes,
compliant
subservient people.
workers. Um, what was it? But so what I want to go over first are who are they? Because that is a massive question when we talk about this stuff. And people you hear on like who are when they do this, they do that. Who are they? Well, I'll tell you exactly who they are. And it's a hierarchy. They're in every aspect of our lives. And they are the puppet masters of each individual thing. And they're each company, each organization, each government, each influencer is all programmed with a task and a job. And so, on the first level, from I've done a lot of research on this, guys. I've not I've uncovered every stone that I can think of, and what I see is patterns, and it's all over the place. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee the pattern. So at the very top, you have obviously you have government leaders, presidents. Um, what are they called? Um, oh man, not ambassador. What does Canada have?
Prime
Canada
Minister,
has a
Prime Minister.
prime minister. Yeah, I just went blank. Um, but yeah, so they have presidents, prime ministers, people who call the shots in the government. All so that kind of goes blanket under world leaders, and I'm talking strictly about Western nations because the Western coalition, the Western 13 families, are the ones in charge right now. Now, the Middle East, China, Russia, those kind of basically people that aren't the West, they have between all of those groups, they have their own 13
Mhm.
families. However, they're not in charge. And there is a battle between evil versus evil on who's actually going to be in charge. However, the Western 13 families have basically always been in charge ever since Rome.
Yeah.
Um, so this is all Western, and it's just the same as it was then.
Hmm.
So you have the United Nations
Hmm.
leaders, first of all. You have NATO. NATO actually has a underground base at um, that is in Mount Hermes or
Mount
Mount
Hermon.
Hermon, where the fallen angels said to descend from after the fall. So they have a base there actually, and really, there's no reason to have a base there
Yeah.
other than just because they want to, and that's where their gods fell. Um, so you have NATO, United Nations. You have, and under this first level is government leaders, central banks, and what people don't really realize is asset management companies.
Hmm.
And I know this is getting a little like, you don't think it's like, how's that even kind of in this whole thing? There's three asset management companies that control 95% of all brands and companies
Hmm.
worldwide. Those under these asset management companies, they have accumulated over $72 trillion
Hmm.
they have under assets and management. That is basically all like 95% of the wealth in the world. They control where it
If
goes.
you've, if you, and I'm talking about the regular listener out there, have invested in the stock market, your investments are probably managed by the one of these three companies.
Unless it's a private
Yes,
company,
unless it's a private company.
that's a, yeah, private companies, but all publicly traded companies, 95% of all publicly traded companies, either BlackRock, State Street, or Vanguard, has a significant stake in that company. They usually buy enough to have a voting share in the company. And if you have the majority of the shares, then you own the company. Basically, you get to dictate where the company goes. And that's why you have all these companies in lockstep pushing certain agendas, pushing certain
The woke
things,
ideology.
uh, the woke
Because
ideology, all in lockstep, all at the same time. It's not a
they
coincidence.
have a ranking system, right? You know, if you have a company, you're supposed to do certain thing. You know, you're supposed to have being, have something to do with, the woke agenda and all of the the different things dealing with race, sexual orientation, environment, governmental, and if you don't rank high on this ranking system, this point system, then you're not able to borrow money to increase your business, increase.
Right. That's what DEI was
Yeah.
implemented for. You have to have certain criteria, and it's called a social credit
Hmm.
score. If you don't meet their requirements, then you can't borrow money from State Street, Vanguard, or BlackRock in order to grow your company. You're basically blackballed, and your company
You
will
won't be able
die
to go on
because
to be able to go get on to the national stock market. You won't be able to be on Wall Street to be traded because they will stop it from happening.
and that's how they gain so much power and influence without actually being the face of
Mhm.
anything.
And that's what the president of
Uh, but
that's what the president
yeah,
of
but
BlackRock said. He said, if people aren't going to comply, then we'll force them to.
yeah,
That was his direct quote.
and whoever controls the piggy bank controls the world,
100%.
and that's basically what these three companies are. They're the piggy bank of the world. Uh, and uh, then you have the military industrial complex. This is a sector of, and I want to kind of touch on this. So these organizations are not themselves a part of the Illuminati. But what they are, some of them are not actually a part of the Illuminati. But what they are tools of the
Mhm.
Illuminati. They are affiliated with it, and they answer to the agenda, the New World Order
Mhm.
agenda, um,
Yeah.
and they comply. And so that's kind of like they know what their marching orders are, and they're happy to comply with the marching orders. Now they're not themselves affiliated; they don't go to like the uh, WEF meetings in Davos or anything. Most of them at this level do, but once we get lower, they don't really do that. But they are in lockstep with it,
Mhm.
and that's just a class. I'm just doing my job.
Mhm.
That's where that line comes from. So you have the military industrial complex, which consists of Lockheed Martin, Dynacorp, General Dynamics, Boeing, and Raytheon. That's the war
Yeah.
machine. And that is where a lot of our nation's leaders' interests lie in the war machine because between all of them, it's about $27 trillion to be made under the war
Mhm.
machine. It's a lot of money. Um, then you have the intelligence agencies. Um, I'm just going to list. You have the CIA and the NSA. The British intelligence and other. Each country obviously has their own intelligence organization. That is that their job is obviously they collect intelligence with other countries and stuff, but their main role is to collect all the data on their people. They spy more on our people than they do on other countries or threats to the
Mhm.
countries. Their main role is to make sure that they are gathering as much information about their own people as possible. Then you have the Federal Reserve, J.P. Morgan Chase, British Royal Family, CDC, and Big Pharma. Um, Second level, you have the industrial leaders and government contractors. So that would be like DARPA, big tech, mainstream media. I consider mainstream media a government
Oh,
contractor
100%.
at this
At this
point.
point, they're a
Um,
psyop. I mean, they've been infiltrated by the the left wing uh, party of the government, and they're being used as a propaganda tool. 100%.
yeah, so they're the ones who yeah, based. I mean, if you don't believe that, whether you like Trump or not, look at the election. The election was a landslide in one way, but the entire time it was a neck and neck race. And then the polls come out, and it's like, oh, it was not a neck and neck race
Mm-mm.
whatsoever. But their job is to pee on you and tell you it's rain. Um,
Yeah.
and then I'll be like, well, that's what mainstream media says. But obviously, the United States is waking up to that. Then you have your entertainment industries. Their job is to promote, or not promote, their job is to shape more of culture,
Mhm.
um, the way the culture's going to be go. With movies, music, um, social media, obviously. Uh, so you have your major film industries and major music
Mhm.
industries that push a negative agenda.
Mhm.
Majority of them are all pushing negative type of agendas or desensitizing you to things that should bother you.
Yeah.
Like a lot of music does that.
Mhm.
And because music is a very powerful
It truly
tool,
is.
movies are not so much influential as they are the people who acting in them are influential,
Mhm.
obviously. A lot of celebrity status. You have things like American Idol. Um, they they're industries to pop up certain people to so we idolize these people. When you idolize somebody, you I mean ultimately are not idolizing God if you create another human being as an idol. And it's very much and I don't say that very like I say that more tongue in cheek, kind of. Um,
Oh, I lost you.
yeah,
Okay. Don't worry.
my said there's internet. That's what it says. Internet
Yeah,
interference.
man. When we start every time, Brandon, we've started talking about these hardline issues, we have problems, and it just does.
Yeah, I don't care.
And it just doesn't happen with us. It happens with Tony Merkel. It happens on Tinfoil Hat podcast. All of these podcasts that are podcasts similar to ours, when they start talking on these hardline issues, stuff happens.
Oh yeah. So level three is not so much of a low hierarchy. Where's that? Level three is not so much of as a low hierarchy, but these are the faces of the movement. Um, Number one, you can argue who's number one or number two. I think Yuval Noah Harari
Yeah,
um, and Klaus
yeah.
Schwab. You can put them one or two. It doesn't matter. Those are the president and vice president of the New World Order.
Mhm.
Um, they host the Davos meetings, and we'll get into Davos next. But these people are evil.
100%.
They are pure evil, and they don't even they. If you notice when you hear them talk, it's just so ridiculous. They refer to not as people but as
Yeah.
humans. So Neil Harari says um, he wants to create technology so humans become more like hackable animals, and in order to do that way, we can um, hack into the human mind and eliminate this. He calls it this fictional thing of free will and freedom. He's like, freedom is just a fictional concept that we just need to get rid of altogether.
And
He said
yes,
these things, literally said these
yeah,
things, and I'm not even paraphrasing
he
that
did.
much.
And then you have Klaus Schwab who says you will own nothing and you will like it. This.
Basically, you will live in a pod and eat
Yes.
bugs, and you will love it.
And if you
That
don't,
doesn't
if
sound.
you don't, then we euthanize you. That's it.
It's good. Um, so, how are all these people in lockstep with each other? Well, that's very easy. They meet every single year at a place in Davos, Switzerland called the World Economic
Yes.
Forum. And that is basically their clubhouse for the. So everybody, every shot caller, and all these different aspects of our life, whether it's banking, media, government, um, intelligence agencies. The shot callers go to this meeting in Davos, and they're given basically the memo for this year. What are we going to accomplish this year to push our New World Order agenda? Um, this past one was a meeting about censorship. Um, they said that there's way too many people speaking their mind out there and talking about things that we don't want them talking about. So they call it you might have heard censorship be called
Hmm.
disinformation. Um, was disinformation um, malinformation is an actual term coined at the Davos meeting called malinformation. Now, get this. This is insane. Malinformation, they said, is a threat to the order of society. Malinformation is not false information. It's information that is true that they don't want you talking about.
Hmm.
And I kid you not, there's uh, countries in Europe, in the UK, who have outlawed what they deem is malinformation, and they're in control of what types of information is considered malinformation. So it's information that's true that the government doesn't want you talking about because it looks bad to them.
Re- get this, um, Brandon. There was a English priest, or he's a preacher that came onto a forum and was talking, and he said that he warned Americans. He said, Americans, you've had your election. President Trump is now a president, is going to be president elect. Hold on to your rights and securities, because he said, now in my country of Britain, in England, they have thought police. And he said that people that go in front of abortion clinics, they just stand there. They're just looking, they're just standing. They are asked if they are praying. And if they say, yes, I'm praying, they are arrested immediately. They're
Yeah.
immediately arrested for praying. It
Now, the mainstream media's job is to make sure none of this stuff
gets out.
gets out, and that they and the stuff that does get out, what is it? What are they called? Conspiracy
Yes.
theories, and everything's a conspiracy theory. It's hilarious how the term conspiracy theory in the past 4 years has gone up in mainstream media's rhetoric by like a thousand
Yeah.
percent.
Well,
And
you
then
just had on the View
the
yesterday. The View, all four of these women were talking, and they said in unison, they said, we have got to control these rogue social media influencers. That's what basically what they were saying. They was like, that's got to be under control. So that means Joe Rogan. That means uh, any podcast like us. Anything that goes against what the mainstream media is talking, it needs to be abolished, because they understand that grassroots underground movement of the truth tellers and the citizen journalists that were producing and putting truth out, in real time, I believe affected this election in the way of Trump, because they were getting the truth out there on social media platforms, and so they
oh yeah,
understand the power that the citizen journalist has.
oh yeah. Well, you have Hillary Clinton saying that um, we need to censor these independent media companies if we want to maintain control of our democracy. Well, first of all, Hillary Clinton, it's not yours to
And it's not a
control.
democracy.
Democracy, yeah,
It's a constitutional
it,
republic.
we are a constitutional republic. We are not a
Correct.
democracy.
I don't want a socialist democracy. Every time that a country has uh, established a democracy, it has fallen into socialism. Every time, Brandon. So that's why our forefathers said this is a constitutional republic. It is not a democracy.
I mean, I pledge allegiance to the flag. Uh, I forgot. It's late.
Of the United States of America,
America. Yeah.
one nation under God,
I'm going to edit this part
indivisible.
out.
One nation under God, indivisible.
For to the
Which it
republic for
stands.
which it stands. That's where I was getting
Yeah.
to. But anyway, I started saying it and then I started thinking about something else and I completely lost track of what I was doing. Have you
Oh,
ever done
absolutely.
that?
That's what
ADD?
ADD people do, of course.
Well, it's like I've got so much information
Oh,
going in my
it's
brain
like a
that it's almost like my mouth can't
yeah.
keep up with how fast
It's
it's
that
going.
tornado. It's like the what's his name? Tasmanian devil in your head. It's spinning around.
Oh yeah, because I'm going on points 4, 5, 6. I mean, I've got 4 full pages of stuff in
That's
front of
awesome.
me. But if I don't have it all in front of me, I can't. I'll
Yeah.
forget it. Like out of sight, out of mind, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, to the republic for which it stands. It doesn't say to the democracy for which it
Correct.
stands. We are a constitutional republic, and I think that's why they. Because nowadays in schools they don't say Pledge of Allegiance
Yeah.
anymore.
Because they don't want you to have an allegiance to the Constitution, to the country.
Well, it's a form of
Hmm.
programming to where you don't associate yourself with a country
Yes.
because the globalist agenda is there are no
Hmm.
countries. It's just us and we're in charge. Uh, but back to what I was saying is, well, back to level three, we got George Soros, Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates. Those four are huge shot callers in this whole scheme of things. You have the Clintons, you have the Obamas. The Obamas, historically, they don't really have much power. But as of, I guess, 2009, he became a shot caller because he was so beloved by a ton of people. But he afterwards, I don't think he ever, after he was in office and Trump, and then he got back in office again through Biden because we know he wasn't a shot caller.
Yeah.
Um, and then you have your mainstream social media influencers, your main not social media per se, but as far as like your most popular influencers in Hollywood and the music industry.
Yeah. Your your
Now back to Davos.
your Jay Z and Beyonce and those types.
Your Taylor
Taylor. Yeah.
Swift, who I don't care. Taylor Swift's a witch.
Yes.
She casts spells on
Yes.
stage. They call it the Taylor Swift
Hmm.
effect. Go Google that. Look at that news
Hmm.
article. Taylor Swift effect. These people are going to Taylor Swift concerts and they leave the concert and can't remember half of the concert
Yeah.
because they were under a spell.
Hmm.
And people think that spells are fictional. Spells are real. They're very, very
Hmm.
real. Um, but the WEF, it's the World Economic Forum. I think it got a lot of because they're saying some wild stuff this past year, and it got a lot of more eyes viewed on it, which they did not like. They don't like this stuff documented. At least they don't like it documented by somebody that's not in control under their
Yeah.
thumb. They hate independent
Hmm.
media because they don't have control of what they say. They don't mind if it's documented as long as they get to show what they want to
Yeah.
show. But this year, they had a freaking witch, or they called it a shaman, or whatever, from somewhere in the globe, come in dressed like pretty witchy. I mean, the only thing she didn't do is fly in on a broomstick, but they left that to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. And look up people. Don't take our word for it. Do your research and look this stuff up. There's something called Project Mockingbird. How every media company from local to national repeats the same thing. If you were to listen to every one of them, it's the exact same dialogue. Everything's the same. And it's programming. It's
Yep.
absolute propaganda programming, is what it is.
And back in after World War II, because this whole psychological programming and indoctrination stuff really hyped up after World War II because the CIA was very, and this is a part of was it Project Bluebeam where they brought in a lot of the German Nazi scientists over to the
No, it's
U.S. gave them citizenship.
Project Paperclip.
Paperclip, yeah, Project Paperclip. They brought a ton of Nazi scientists over, gave them um, citizenship and immunity in the United States because they were obviously interested in the occult technology they were using. If if you want to go a little more into that, Google the what was it? The
Hmm.
bell, the the Nazi
Nazi
bell.
bell.
Yeah, Google the Nazi bell. It was a lot of occult type of weaponry and technology that they were interested in, but they're also interested in on how they got an entire country to follow orders in lockstep and do the most insane things in the
Hmm.
world. And they're very interested in that because that's some next level human
Yeah.
programming. And so after that, they really started. That's when MK Ultra Project
Yeah.
started, and that is an entire. This is what the CIA is like. This is what they do with the 95% of the time that they have when they clock in the morning. Is like, how can I program the people in our own country to be more compliant and more controllable?
Hmm.
So, um, what they do is they do this they do it on so many different aspects. So, um, forms like psychological forms like gaslighting, repeating the same lie over and over and over and over, or accusing people of what you're doing. Uh,
Hmm.
and it works. It sounds ridiculous because it's like, how does that work? But it does work. If you tell somebody that the sky isn't blue enough times, and you get everybody around them to tell them that the sky is not
Hmm.
blue, they're going to be like, "Crap, is the sky really blue?" It's a way of convincing somebody that it's not that what you're seeing is not
It
real.
comes right out of the communist playbook. Keep saying the lie until the only alternative is to believe it.
Right. And that's how they do it with music. They play the same 10 songs on the radio over and over and over and over until you actually start liking them.
Yeah.
Um, but they do this in a lot of like I'll go over just kind of some of the not projects but ways they are pushing this agenda now that most people that are just living their life have no idea that's happening. So they've got to depopulate us down to 500 million. They do this slowly. Our life expectancy now has dropped by almost 12 years
Hmm.
in the past 50 years
Hmm.
on average. People are only living to like
Yeah.
70. Average life expectancy 50 years ago was like 85 or
I
something
think
like
the
that.
average life expectancy for a
Which,
man, a man that's in rather good condition is like 74. For a woman, it's 78 to 79.
right. But 50 years ago, people were living well into their 80s
Oh,
and 90s.
absolutely. Healthy,
And
healthy
you can't,
80s and 90s.
and healthy. And you can't tell me that that's because, like with the technology and stuff we know now and have access to, that those two things can't exist at the same time. But they want to kill people off once they start becoming a liability and not a
When they start
resource.
draining
So
society,
when they start draining money from the government and Medicaid and all
resources.
that stuff, that's when they're like, nope, cut off. Because up until then, you're giving money into the
Well,
government. Once you start taking money out, they don't
Brandon,
like it.
right now in Canada, they have euthanized sinners where you set a
Mhm.
time, just like you go to the doctor, you go to this euthanation center. They have a room, and you talk to one of the agency workers, counselors,
Counselors,
and they talk you through the process of basically they set you up to the intravenous machine, and then you decide by pushing the button. Okay, you have a button, you push the button, and then the the poison goes into your veins, and it kills you.
It's
It's
suicide,
assisted suicide is what it is.
which is a was a massive
Hmm.
sin.
Hmm.
So they're getting people to sign up to commit
Yes,
suicide. Also, um, it's not even majority of people that's doing this. Not even elderly people. It's people with mental
hundred
illness
percent. Sad.
and like severe mental illness. Not just people that are a little sad sometimes. These are people that are mentally
Hmm.
challenged. Uh, it's evil. It's just
Plain
evil.
evil.
Um, and um, the whole concept of toxic masculinity. Um, that's a saying now.
Hmm.
Why have they attacked masculinity? Well, the people that are going to oppose this stuff, it's just going to be men.
Hmm.
Men typically lead things on average. Not saying that all men lead things. However, if you get a group of people in there, 50-50 men and women, most of the time, a man will take the lead of the group. It's just that lions do it in pride. It's nature.
Alpha men lead, beta
But
men don't.
right, right. But out of a group, somebody's going to be a
Yeah.
leader, and on statistical average, it's most likely going to be a male. So, because statistically, women are more compliant.
Yep.
I'll lose you
Lost you again.
saying,
There we go.
here we go. So getting rid of masculinity. Um, did you know that the average 30-year-old male today has less testosterone
Yes.
than the average 60-year-old male
Correct.
50 years ago?
Correct. And
Another way.
this is what we're seeing across the board, Brandon. And I have some heart conditions, and so I went into my cardiologist, and he's like, "Oh, Archie, your cholesterol's a little high." It was 122. Okay. Before 1979, the average cholesterol that was healthy was anywhere from 250 on up to 375, even into the 400s was not considered terrible. But after the big pharma created statin drugs to control cholesterol, because cholesterol was thought to clog arteries and all that type of thing. Then they formed these statin drugs, which run havoc on the body. And they told people you need to start eating a low fat diet and watch out for red meat, watch out for eggs. What happened? Dementia, dementia, and Alzheimer's went to an all-time high because you need animal fat in your body because the cholesterol is what generate it basically is the mechanism and the it um, is the energy force for your brain. If you don't have cholesterol and good fats in your body, it slows your capacity for your brain because there's only certain enzymes that are found in animal protein that help the brain. That's why I know people say that are vegans and that are vegetarians are healthy, but let me tell you, they're not as healthy as people that have a more higher protein diet. That's why they want us to go to eating bugs because high protein diet makes us strong, makes us healthier in every facet, mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually. A high protein diet enables us as humans to do that. And
Oh yeah, I mean the amount of chemicals and stuff. That's what I had next. The chemicals they put in our food, the drugs that they give us.
the
I mean,
fluoride.
Did you know that 1 in 3? I mean, RFK talks about this now, and it's really come to light
Mhm,
now. So 20 years ago, it was like 1 in 28 kids were
mhm.
autistic. Now it's 1 in 3
It's
kids.
ridiculous.
1 in 3. That's
Mhm.
insane.
And people will argue.
Um,
I have argued with people about these um, vaccines that they're giving babies. Okay, before my son received some of his last vaccines, he was a healthy, normal baby. After he received his last vaccines, when he was 10 years old, he was diagnosed with Asperger's. And I don't care what anybody tells me, I don't care. I believe that that is a direct correlation to his vaccines. I'm sorry. I just believe that.
no, no, that's a real thing. I mean, my cousin uh, has it, and uh, my aunt was a nurse, and she said that's
Yeah.
100% why. But this is, and I'm going through all this stuff because it's not done intentionally. It's done
Hmm.
intentionally because that's how we've been slowly programmed over time. Sorry, I'm losing my voice, but we're and this is not this new world order is not a thing that's gonna happen overnight. And the biggest question I had was if why be involved in such evil stuff if you're not even going to be at the top of the food chain when it's all said and done because you'll be dead and gone
Yeah.
by the time. And the only thing that makes sense is a religious like belief in human destruction,
Hmm.
which is
Hmm.
Satanist and as Satanist at its
Yeah.
core. But central bank digital currency, removing God, removing family, and the biggest thing in the entire, the most effective thing out of this whole list is the concept of divide and conquer, dividing people in every aspect of society that you can through class, race, political views. I mean, you think about it, there's a subgroup for it.
Hmm.
And as long as, and not just dividing everybody, but creating conflict between all the different subgroups of
Hmm.
people, which is very easy to do. You just play on people's emotions, um, and there you got them in the palm of your hand like that. And then they'll think, but the thing is, they think it's their idea. They think it's their thoughts. They think it's their will when it's subliminal programming to control people on what they want them to do.
Correct.
And it's very simple. There's some science to it, but I mean, like simple example, don't think of a pink elephant. You're thinking of a pink elephant.
Yeah.
I mean, right there, you just controlled somebody's thought,
Hmm. And
and
it
that's what you know or Yuval Noah Ferrari is talking about when he says we need to create more sophisticated technology to hack to what do you say, make humans hackable animals.
Mhm.
And that is a quote from him. But this systematically is how they're going to eventually get to their ultimate goal of the New World Order, which is one world government where everybody, I mean, look at all these futuristic movies where everybody's living in a pod. You have these mask wearing, faceless uh, henchmen all over the place
Mhm.
that are controlling
Mhm.
everybody. You have things like the Hunger Games. What is that? It's like that is a one world government
Yes.
right
Yeah.
there. That is what they want.
Mhm. Um,
Now they make it into a movie like the government's a bad guy, but that's just and you'd think, oh well, they would make themselves a good guy if they really want that. No, it's just that that's a desensitizing
Yes.
way of showing you something. If you show something shocking to somebody enough times, they become desensitized to it. After they're desensitized to it, then it becomes normal, it becomes a part of the normal day. Then it becomes acceptable, and then it's become a acceptable, normal part of everyday
Yeah.
life. When initially it was shocking and rare, and nobody was on board with it.
Mhm.
But that is the agenda in a nutshell. And we could have done a podcast on any one of these aspects of things. That's why really pay attention on what's going on.
Absolutely.
Don't don't listen to what you're being told. Listen to why they're telling you
Hmm.
it, or ask why they're telling you this
And
information. Why does this news media want me to know that there was a quote unquote school shooting or something?
Mhm.
Not a school shooting, but like some of the 90% of media is negative.
Yeah.
Some negative stuff we need to know, but majority of it we don't really need to know.
Well, Brandon, I don't know if you knew, but just today there was a young person that had a backpack that tried to get to the nation's capital, and when he tried to get through security, and I think he had a weapon, and he had two containers of some type of um, flammable liquid. I mean, it, it's just crazy what people's mindset is now. If things don't go a certain way, people get so angry, and you know violence isn't it's not always a remedy to something. you know Sometimes cooler
No,
heads prevail, and you just have to work harder the next time. There will be a day and time where we may have to stand up and defend ourselves, defend our country from people within our country. I mean, there may be that may be at some point in the future that we have to do that, but I don't think that time is necessarily right now. And I'm not calling for violence at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if and when the New World Order Illuminati want to come down the streets with UN soldiers and say, at the point of a gun, you need to do this and that, what we tell you to do, then we have a right under God to defend ourselves, to defend our family, to defend our faith, and to defend our country. Um, and I'm sorry, but that's what I believe. That's why we have the Second Amendment. When a tyrannical government tries to take our freedoms away, that's when we stand up as a people, as a republic, and say, no, we're not going to allow the government to take our freedoms from us. And that is
yeah, and
constitutional
and
and biblical.
and again, I want to reiterate this: these these things are like these people, the entities that I listed off and stuff. They're not in charge.
Mm-mm,
They're foot
mhm,
soldiers. The people who are in charge. You don't know. You don't see. I mean, we're going to expose them,
mhm,
so you will know
mhm.
next episode. But they're not in charge. The people running governments are not in charge. It's it's the top of the top that are in charge of the world
And where do they
or think they're in
and
charge
where
of
do
the
they
world.
get their orders from? From Satan.
Yep, they
That's
do.
exactly.
And that's how this whole system schemes goes. Now, as far as what we've been seeing the past few years. Well, I do want to touch on this. The only way this whole new world order works is the systematic destruction of countries,
Yeah.
which that's the whole reason for the open border. That's the whole reason for inflating the dollar. It's all part of the what was in Davos in 2015
Hmm.
or so is when the meeting for last for the next decade. The whole thing was build back better.
Hmm.
Well, what are you building back in the first
Well,
place?
Brandon, what did we hear the whole time during COVID? It, it's a reset. It's a reset. We got to have the reset. We got to have the reset.
Yeah, the whole build back better agenda was the destruction of
Hmm.
countries because you can't reshape a country in your own form if it still exists. You have to destroy the
Exactly. You
country
have to bring the country to its,
and build it back into what they say is a better form,
mhm, which is 15-minute
which
cities
is
and government
the
control.
Great Reset.
15-minute cities and government
Yeah,
control.
it's better for who? Better for you or better for
Exactly.
us? Better for
Exactly.
them all the
And
time.
that's where you saw in Britain and in England where they were trying to set up these 15-minute cities and the people revolted and the camera systems and the lighting systems, people were destroying the cameras, destroying the lighting because the you know certain people had a revolt and rose up and said, "Wait a minute. You're not going to cage us like animals. We're free. You know, we're going to do what we want to do." And so they started, destroying the cameras and stuff, which kudos to them, man. Kudos for them for standing up for their freedom.
Oh yeah, and that's why we're bringing all this stuff to light because this this is their agenda. You can believe it. You don't have to believe it. I mean, if you scratch the surface, you'll start asking more questions. But that's what the agenda is.
Mm,
That's why all this craziness in the world's going on.
100%.
And that's what the Illuminati's job is to execute this agenda, put the people that they want pushing each individual micro agenda across the societies and
Hmm.
governments. So the end result will be a new world order.
And listen, people, we're not here to tell you who to vote for. We're not here to tell you what to think. We're here to tell you what we've uncovered in our research and the truth of what we have uncovered. But here's the issue. You know, with this thing with Trump being voted into office, I know a lot of people don't like Trump, but you had a majority of the country to have an election. He won not only the Electoral College, but he won the popular vote. So understand, people in this country wanted a change because the status quo of the administration before had not has and had not done a great job in building us back better. We're not better. We're not better financially. We're not better militarily. We're not better socially. We're just not better. And the other big factors within the with what people were wanting to vote for, whether it be abortion, whether it be um, LGBT rights and all these other things, nobody the Trump administration didn't put any restrictions on anybody. But what the Biden administration said, especially with abortion, hey, we're going to give that back to the states. Let the states decide on that issue because it should be a state issue. And with other issues dealing these these trans uh, trans children's rights. I'm going to say trans children because if you're a grown adult, then sure you can do whatever you want to do. But when you start chopping off the genitals of little children and pumping them full of hormone blockers, that is a form of abuse. It's abuse. I don't care what you say it is abuse. And, you know, so I think in my mind, we need people were fed up. Okay. People are just fed up with what's going on. So they wanted a regime change of somebody that had sensible or has sensible policies. And I think that that was the outcry on this election. It wasn't, I've heard a lot of people on social media say, well, you know, America, a certain amount of Americans are stupid for voting in so and so. And then, somebody said, well, why would you vote for this so and so? And, that you're stupid for it. It's not about that. It's about voting where we have freedoms and our freedoms, we're allowed to be who we are as Americans. And we'll see. We'll see with, Trump getting into office how well we're going to do under the next 4 years. And I didn't mean to get political, but I think in certain areas we must talk about the politics because it all accumulates together with when you talk about these secret societies, the bloodlines, the families, the Illuminati. It all accumulates together, and some of these bloodlines and the families and the Illuminati want to control a narrative that best fits what they want for themselves, not for us, but for themselves. And I guarantee you, what they want for themselves is not beneficial to us. And that's what Brandon is saying to us as well. They want us as chattel, just as they want us as a slave class. And that's I don't care if you're white, red, yellow, black, whatever. If you're not part of the elite, you are considered a peasant. And if you're not going to contribute to them, then they're going to euthanize you. And that's what this new world order, new society, we want to put a chip in your head so we can control you. That's
It's anti-human.
exactly. It's, and there again, when you say anti-human, that's part of this um, what do they call it? Transhumanism, where humans and robot come together, or technology, putting a chip in your head so you can get this information in a download, just like a computer. I'm sorry, I don't want that. I've got my phone that I can look stuff up on. And
Yeah.
Brandon, I didn't mean to rant, but and I didn't mean to bring politics into it, but I think it's
No, it's fine. I mean, this is it's an aspect of what we're doing.
exactly. And
I'm sorry, my voice is
yeah,
going.
I understand. And listen, I don't care who you vote for. It's not for me to tell you who to vote for. Each person has that right and has the ability to do their research on the candidates that are out there. Whenever you're out there to vote for a particular, whether it's the presidency or a congressman, a senator, a mayor, a governor, you have to do your research and say to yourself, does this candidate appeal to my beliefs and to what I want for myself, my family? And so I'll never tell a person who to vote for, but I will say that I I think one particular candidate aligned more with my values than the other. And so that's who I chose to vote for. And if a person felt differently, by all means, if you felt differently and wanted to vote for the other candidate, you have that right. But what I'm seeing is people, especially the media, the news media now, we're seeing a narrative of, and this is the narrative that is being said, that undereducated blue collar people voted for Trump. Okay, doesn't mean it doesn't that doesn't mean they're any less of a American, any less of a human, any less of a person. They still work hard, they still have families, they still have a bank account that they want to put more money in their pocket and for their families, for them, for themselves, to build up a retirement, to do things with their families. And I think one candidate benefited on that more than the other. And I think that 61 million people felt that way as well. So that's why,
I thought it was
well,
over
I guess it
80.
was over eight. I think it was 61%. I'm sorry, 61% of people in America decided that this candidate is for us. And it's these talking points about all this other garbage for both candidates. You need to kind of push that stuff to the side and take what mainstream media says with a grain of salt. And
Oh, I just believe the exact opposite of what they're
exactly,
saying.
exactly.
And here's the false narrative that we need to look more deeper than it is not Republican and Democrat. It's not black, white, or whatever. It's not rich. It's not poor. It's you're either with the global new world order, or you're with
Hmm.
humanity.
Yeah.
Those are the only two teams. When you break it down, everything else is just a divide and conquer scheme.
All this stuff,
You're either with the people, or you're with the
and
globalists.
all this stuff about social construct, and it's all set to divide us. It's a divider. It's meant to divide us, because if we're united, and I'm talking, every color, every creed, every sexual orientation, if we're all united together, then we're a danger to the new world order. So they have to form division between us, so we won't be unified. As long as you can divide and conquer, and I'm talking about the new world order, then they can control us. But if we ever would just let the walls come down and unify together, we would be a force to be reckoned with when it comes to the new world order and all these other issues.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you come from,
Yeah,
whatever. We all want the same thing.
absolutely.
We all want to. We all want to live our life the way we decide. It's not decided for us. We all want to make some money, and we want to raise our
Yeah,
family.
100%.
Or even if you don't want to raise a family, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
But this is a free country. This is America.
100%.
You have the right to pursuit of
Amen.
happiness, whatever that may look for you.
Amen.
So I think that's a good note to
I
end
think so
on.
as well, my friend. We
But next time, part three is coming up. We're going to go a little farther deeper into the whole secret society, the 13 families, the real evil in the world, and expose
Yeah,
it all.
sounds good.
And if you like the content and stuff, please leave a comment, like it, follow it,
If you don't like it,
notify or
if you don't
notification.
like it, leave a comment.
Yeah, even if you don't like it, any recognition
Yeah,
helps.
100%.
So I guess if you don't like it, you don't help, but whatever.
we're hey,
Um,
we read it all. Everybody that leaves a comment or something, we read it all, and it's you know anybody's opinion, you know. So
so, till next time, we'll
see
see
ya.
y'all later.